Welcome everybody to Engage 360, Learn Where You Live. You're going to be engaging in a session called Acceleration Using Growth Mindset, and we are going to start off by having our learning community leaders introduce themselves and kind of set the tone for our learning today. So Dr. Wyndham, I'm going to pass it off to you, and Mr. Bond.
Hello, everyone. Well, my name is William Bond. I'm the area superintendent for the Southeast Learning Community. This is indeed a very, very exciting day. Well, actually evening, right? So we have also, as part of my team, Dr. Wyndham, and also our Senior Director, Gloria McGarvey, is also with us. Truly, again, this topic is a very exciting one. So acceleration using growth mindset. So this session is really to empower our parents to utilize social-emotional learning strategies, including helping our students to develop a growth mindset to support the acceleration of student learning, not only at school, but most importantly, also at home. So indeed, a very exciting evening. So welcome all.
Hello, everybody. I am Shauna Hernandez, and I am a school psychologist who serves the Southeast Learning Community. This is my 5th year as a school psychologist, and I used to be a special education teacher for 7 years in the city of Chicago.
Hello, my name is Lee Ann Toms, and I'm also a school psychologist in my 25th year. I'm based in the East Learning Community, but we help out wherever we're needed, and I'm glad to be here this evening. And I am a former middle and high school English language arts teacher. Okay, our learning goal tonight is to empower parents to utilize social emotional learning strategies, including helping students develop a growth mindset and to support the acceleration of student learning at school and home.
So here is our agenda for the evening. First, we'll do the welcome and introductions, which we have already taken care of. Next, we're going to define what acceleration is and how what it has to do with learning. Then we will discuss growth mindset. We'll define it and we'll see how you can use it to encourage it in both yourself and your children. Last, we will discuss strategies for supporting learning at home. And then we will have time for questions at the end and then our closing.
All right, so in order to get the most out of our time together this evening, we have expectations and commitments that we will be utilizing. And we'd like to take a moment to briefly review the information on this slide. And we'll start with our expectations. Hopefully you have a device that has a microphone and webcam capability, and we encourage you to enable your webcam so we can build community and see each other. We would love for you to participate in our discussions verbally and in the chat box. And please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. And then we have some commitments that will help us interact during our time together. And of course, we all want to kind of approach learning with a positive growth mindset, be present with other participants throughout the discussion. Hopefully you will enjoy some of the activities that we have for you tonight. And take that time to reflect and share with each other. And just again, you know, in today's environment and with everything going on, just kind of encourage positivity as much as possible. And when our expectations and commitments join together, we create an optimal virtual learning environment. Now, I mentioned the chat feature, and so I'd like to encourage everyone to look at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and you will see the chat box there. There is a drop-down menu that says To, and when you do participate in chat, if you select everyone, then all of the participants as well as the hosts will be able to see your feedback. Thank you. All right, so what does it mean to accelerate learning? Well, basically, the definition of acceleration is the increase in the rate or speed of something. In education, acceleration refers to filling in academic gaps for students. Acceleration is more effective than remediation. And when working with students to get them caught up or to accelerate their learning, it is important to do so using a growth mindset, focusing on good study habits.
So what we're going to do first is we're going to do a little check of your current knowledge about growth mindset and what that means. So I'm going to start a poll, and you will be able to enter your answers. One second. Please answer yes if you think the statement is a growth mindset, and no if it is not. We're not going to go over the answers right now. We will go over them at the end. We just want to see where you are right now. So I see a lot of you have started. If you are not seeing it, is also where the chat is. You might have to click on the little caret that's pointing to polling to open it. We'll give you guys a little bit of time to do that. Thank you for all of you for participating. I see we have about 34 of you who are completed. We'll just wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think just to give them a little bit longer to finish the poll, those are some good statements to reflect on. Looks like we have just about, what, 13 more people finishing it up?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez?
That's
Okay.
correct. I'll give you about 10 more seconds and then we'll close it and move on. So yes, Jose, so this poll is what we're doing is just checking your knowledge about what a growth mindset is. So there's a few statements, and each statement you are marking yes, it is a growth mindset, or no, it is not. And we're just checking your knowledge. We're going to go over the answers at the end of the presentation. This is just for us to get a little feel of what your prior knowledge.
So perhaps if people don't get a chance to finish, those statements will pop up again at the end and we'll review those answers one by one.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to close the poll.
Okay.
Sorry, it's giving them, it does a countdown. So we have 10 more seconds and the poll will end.
Technology is.
I didn't know it did that, so.
We learned something new today.
All right, I like to learn new things. All right, so today we're going to talk about those differences between a fixed and a growth mindset. This picture here that you can see on the screen gives us examples of how to view things in a growth mindset versus viewing that in a fixed mindset. So I'd like you to imagine that you are at a job, your job, and your supervisor gives you some suggestions to improve your work practice. The person who receives this takes notes, reflects on those notes, and makes changes. So in the chat box, please write if you think this is a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. So does this person who takes those suggestions and make improvements, do they have a fixed or a growth mindset? Please write in the chat box.
Okay. So we're getting a lot of responses, Ms. Hernandez, that it is an example of a growth mindset.
Okay, let's say you're at that same job, and now when your supervisor gives you those suggestions, you get angry and you beat yourself up. You're like, oh, I'm just so bad at my job. So what do you think this person is going through? Is that a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? So they got those same suggestions, but they feel like they're doing a bad job and they're just horrible at the job.
Okay, everyone is pretty much in agreement that this is an example of a fixed mindset.
All right, so let's think of another example. If you are looking at something and you're like, this is a problem, do you guys think that's easier or harder to solve? You can put it in the chat or you can just think it to yourself. Harder, yes. So what if you thought of it as an opportunity? Would that change how you approach it? Or would you approach it the same way as thinking of it as a problem? Yes, thank you guys.
Okay, so we want our students, our kids, to accelerate their learning and close any gaps. Sometimes when we are focusing on acceleration, because it is a little bit more challenging and rigorous, children may present us with a fixed mindset. So for instance, if you're working on math, they may say, I'm no good at math, I can't do this. So it's going to be important for us as parents to model a growth mindset and help them reframe their thinking by saying, well, hey, you can do this. We just need to learn new strategies in math so we can solve this problem. And by helping them reframe their fixed mindset to a growth mindset, we can increase their confidence in their abilities and help accelerate their learning. Now, again, thank you guys so much for participating, and it really helps us, especially in this virtual format. We want you as adults to think about a time when you had a fixed mindset. Whether it was in your personal life, your professional life. And after watching this video, if you can briefly in the chat, just kind of explain how you changed your fixed mindset into a growth mindset.
Are you guys able to hear the video?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All right.
Do you have an example that you could share, Ms. Hernandez, about
Yes. So when I got my driver's license, I don't know if they still do this, but you have like the 4 cones and then one at the top, and you have to practice like parallel, I guess, parking. And I couldn't do it. I kept rolling, rolling over the cones. And I mean, just as soon as I saw those cones, it would just sweat. Even my mom was worried that I wouldn't pass it, but I did pass it. And then I lived in Chicago for 10 years. And I had to parallel park almost every single day. And I was able to decide that I had to do it. I could do it, but mostly because I had to. I didn't have a choice to like go park in a nice parking lot, so I had to learn how to do it. And I think I do pretty well now. There's probably room for improvement. But I had to believe in myself, otherwise I would never be able to park in Chicago.
now, is there anyone that would be willing to share either via the chat or unmute their microphone and share with the group an example where they maybe started with a fixed mindset and kind of changed up? Let's see. All right, someone else got a promotion that I wanted and that I worked hard for. And then at first they beat themselves up about it, but then I realized it was an opportunity for me to shine even brighter in my current role to prove my abilities. Sometimes it's hard. And I think too, as adults and parents, you know, even in developmentally appropriate ways, sharing kind of those experiences with your children and modeling kind of how you're reframing your thinking into a more positive mindset is going to help them to learn to do the same and to generalize those kinds of things into their daily activities at school and in their kind of maybe extracurricular activities as well. Anybody else want to be brave and volunteer? We would love to hear from you.
Leanne, I don't know if you see Cynthia's, but Cynthia also added something in the chat box about.
Let me look. Wait 1 second. I don't see Cynthia's,
All right,
but I see Miss Milan said, when I was an adolescent, I had a fixed mindset. I learned through experiences, positive people around me, and reading a lot of self-help books. Okay. And then someone said that the only one that they use with their kids is instead of them saying, I don't know, I encourage, I don't know this yet. Do you see the one from Cynthia, Ms. Hernandez?
She said she bused the same way for 5 years and she wasn't open to change and she didn't want to willing participate in that change.
Okay. Those are some excellent examples, very specific.
Okay, so now Nicolette and I are going to demonstrate a little bit a conversation between a parent and a child, and the scenario is on the PowerPoint.
All right, Mom, I got that terrible grade on my math test this week. I studied really hard and I give up. I can't keep doing my homework if I'm not gonna do well on my test. What's the point?
Oh, I'm so sorry that you didn't do well on your test. What about the last test? We did really good on that one. Is there something that you did different to study for the first test than the second test?
I studied the same way, but it just seems like the content keeps getting harder and harder. The math problems are more difficult and I just don't get it. The way the teacher explains it, it's just too hard for me. I'm not good at math. I'm not a math person.
Oh man, don't say that. We can always learn and it might be hard, but we can keep trying. You have been working so hard. I see you doing your math homework every night. Has your teacher taught you multiple strategies or only one strategy? And have you tried something new? Or are you doing it the same way each time?
She did. I mean, let me check my notes. I know she had me write down a couple different strategies that we can do to solve the same types of problems, but I only really truly understood one of them, so that's the one I go to. But the other ones are there. I can show them to you.
Okay, let's look at them because it seems to me that that one way isn't working. So maybe if mommy looks at it and she can hopefully figure it out too, we can figure it out together, and maybe with a new strategy, then we can do better on that test.
Mommy, do you ever make mistakes in math sometimes?
All the time. Even when I teach math at school, when I teach algebra, because I did used to teach algebra, mommy would make mistakes, and then I would have to tell the class, "Oh, your teacher made a mistake. Let's fix it." Because everybody makes mistakes, and as long as you learn from them, then we can move on. And so I would tell the kids like, "Oh, I made a mistake. Let's find where I made the mistake." And sometimes the kids would be able to tell me what I did wrong, and then that helped them to learn because they were teaching me what they did.
Okay. I think if you help me try and understand some of these other strategies, I can keep trying. I just want to do well, and I just don't feel successful right now, but I appreciate you helping me.
All right, well, let's get to work and we will work hard and hopefully we'll get this because we still have this part. Thank you. And we'll do end scene just for you, so you know.
Okay, so when Ms. Hernandez and I were putting this presentation together, I immediately thought of one of my favorite Disney movies, which was Finding Nemo. And I really feel like Dory is a great example of a character with a growth mindset. She never gives up and she just keeps on swimming. And I feel like when we talk about process praise and its importance in a growth mindset, I imagine Dory's parents using process praise with her. So let's talk about what is process praise. Well, it focuses on the student's individual qualities and traits, and it acknowledges the student's effort, strategies, or actions that contributed to the success of the task. And before I give us some examples of process praise, somebody mentioned that Meet the Robinsons is an excellent example of a growth mindset movie. And that's also just kind of going a little bit off script, watching movies with kids that have characters that kind of exemplify that. It's all part of that modeling and teaching and showing them, because a growth mindset is not only good when we're talking about accelerating our learning, but it's good in general with positive peer interactions, adult interactions, etc. So I have to watch Meet the Robinsons. I have not seen that yet, but I wanted to share with you all some examples of process praise. Great job. You must have worked really hard. I liked how you tried all those different strategies for your math problem. That's how you got the answer. I like this one. I noticed that you cleaned up your room without being asked. Good job. You didn't give up even when it was hard. And process praise encourages students to keep working, which will help them accelerate their learning. Now, next we'd like to talk about, we want to maximize acceleration. We're going to talk about different ways that you can support your learning at home. I think it's important too, Ms. Hernandez, let's go ahead and look at the comments real quick and just kind of, they were talking about how it's important absolutely to remember and think kind of, put yourself in your children's shoes. Someone said, my 4-year-old is faster, more fast, patient, and overall ahead of my 5-year-old. And I have to tell myself that each kid is different and not to compare. And then I was terrible at math growing up, so I understand my son and his struggles, but I remind him that he may not get it yet, but that he will. Math seems to be a common denominator with some of the struggles as far as, making sure kids have that growth mindset.
Yes, math is always a difficult thing. Like I said, I used to teach high school math. And I mean, every kid comes in, even now when I ask kids what their favorite subject is or anything, and like everyone's like, oh, well, math's hard. And I'm like, okay, but why is it hard? So it is a mindset I think that a lot of people have. With math, it's just a mindset that a lot of people have, that math is hard and horrible. But we use math every day and you might not even realize that you're using it. It's not as You guys can get them.
Yeah.
We can all get math.
Yes. So now I think it's going to be good because we're going to help everyone and help them see some different strategies that we can use at home to support our learners.
Okay. So first thing, what does study and homework time look like at your house? You can go ahead and put your responses in the chat. So what does that look like when your kids are either studying for something or they're doing that homework?
It could be chaotic, it could be organized, it could be a little bit of both, but what does it look like at home for you?
Your son is sitting right next to you waiting for help. Yeah.
Multitasking,
Sometimes
as parents, we have to do it all.
At the table, generally quiet. Brutal. I mean, sometimes, Josh, it is brutal. I will agree with you. Last night, I didn't know how to help my daughter do her homework. So it was brutal
Crying,
for me.
children talking over each other, moms getting frustrated. Talking
Have to
about
reward. Rewards are okay to do.
We're going to talk about that. And her one son likes to do his homework in his room.
Okay. Oh, I like that you have a certain homework area. You have a walk and then a snack, and then you dive into homework. That sounds like a wonderful homework plan, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So it sounds like you're on the right track. Oh, homework and cooking at the same time is awful and chaotic. I also have to do that sometimes.
And we recognize that it's hard as parents when a lot of us are working full time and then, trying to get home like we were saying, and you're getting dinner and trying to get homework. And we're hoping by sharing these strategies with you today that it will help you become a little bit less stressed and more organized. Oh, that's good. My second grader is usually self-sufficient, but the third grader has struggles.
Oh, I'm glad that your daughter is excited for school. I also love learning. That is great. So what we're going to talk about first is different strategies for supporting learning. And like I had read before, some of you do have routines, but you do want to establish a routine, and everybody's routine can look different. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is have a plan. Okay, so it's good to list the things that need to be completed. It's good to help teach your child time management, because a lot of children don't get that learning anywhere. So you can have them estimate how long it will take them to complete their task, and then see if it does take that long, just so that they can learn what time. It helps them learn what time is, and then they can better do their time. And then what order are they going to complete their task? Do they just do it willy-nilly? Do they always do reading first? Do they always do math? And you do want, to get your child's input, because if you just make it for them, they might not buy into that plan. So you want to do something that works best for everybody, not just the parent. So the next thing is decide on the best time to do homework and study. So again, someone mentioned that they always take a walk, have a snack, have a little half-hour break doing those things, and then they start homework. Okay, so do your students need to do their homework right when they get home? Are they allowed to have a break? Do they do math homework, get a break, do reading homework? Do they need a snack? Do they do it in the morning? I mean, my daughter could never do it in the morning because she is not a morning person, but my son gets up like 2 hours earlier before school, so he could do his homework in the morning. So again, each child could be different too. You could have a plan for each of your children that are different, just as long as it works for them. And then if that does not work for them, after you try it for a week or 2 weeks, you can try another way. So if you put in a plan in place and it's not working, you're allowed to change it. Okay, so that's part of like having a growth mindset. And you know what? You're not going to stick. I saw someone just said, like, sometimes the routine breaks, and that's okay. I do this for a living, and I also don't keep a routine constantly. You know what I mean? So it's not, you're allowed to take breaks. Things happen, life happens, so you're allowed. And don't be afraid to experiment with what it looks like. And just because something works for someone else, doesn't mean that's going to work for your family. And you really have to find, what happens, what helps, and what works for your family.
I was going to say also, Ms. Hernandez, if your schedule with extracurriculars changes, I mean, routines can change if your schedule changes. They don't have to be, they're never set in stone.
Yeah. That's one of the most important things to being a parent is being flexible. It's just very good for everybody to be malleable and be able to change when needed. So we also need to have our students establish and maintain like an organizational system. So how do they organize their school materials? Some schools are going to tell you how they want it. So some are going to say that they have to put their homework in a homework folder. So that way in the homework plan, it will be like, oh, when I'm done with my homework, it goes right in my folder. Some schools have them write their homework in a planner. Some schools say they don't have to. Some teachers, even at the schools, will have their own things. Some have them do it electronically in Canvas. So they just have the due dates in Canvas and they have to know where to look. So if your school has requirements, you do need to, kind of work within those confines, but you can also try to make it, adapt it to how your child is and how they learn. And don't forget that your kids need to be taught. You don't just say, hey, you're going to write that in your planner, or hey, we're going to have a list here. You're going to write down what you do. You have to teach it to them. If no one teaches them, they're not going to know. So you want to show them, directly teach them how to use the system that you want. And again, remember, flexibility. If it doesn't work for you, then find another way. You can even probably ask your teacher, be like, look, this isn't working for my kid. They don't use it. It's not helpful. And then hopefully your teacher can work with you to help come up with a different system. You want to reinforce them, tell them, oh, I see you're working hard. I love how you always turn in your homework. I love how you always put it in your folder when you're done. If you see them like struggling, like, where do I find my homework? Where do I put it? You might have to reteach it, and that's okay because, like I said, life happens, but the important part is that you're working with them to do it. So that way they get more. Also, please don't forget, if your kid is at a technology school, that it's very important after they do their homework assignment. I see it a lot. They forget to hit submit. So on Canvas, when they're doing an assignment, they do it, it's beautiful, it's done, and then they forget to hit submit. And then your student has missing assignments. They don't know why. They're like, I did it, but they forgot the most important step, submit. And I promise you, I see it a lot. So I know that a lot of students are not hitting submit. Even my own kids will come home and I'll be like, in Skyward, it says that you have a missing assignment. They're like, I did it. I'm like, let's go check. And it's because they didn't hit the submit button 100% of the time. They never have forgotten to do it. So that's just one thing for parents to know. If kids are turning things in digitally, that you are making sure that they know, yes, my computer ate my homework. That's funny. You, make sure to know that they have to turn it or hit that submit button. Maybe write it down. So another part of a routine is having that study space. I know some of you, when we asked what your homework time looked like, that you did have a study space. So what does that look like? Where does your student work best? So when COVID happened, I had bought each of my kids a desk. I put it in their room. I got them a little desk lamp. I got them cool new school supplies, try to make them happy and welcoming. They got to pick out their new chairs. And you know what? My son, he was fine. My daughter hated it. She didn't want to sit in the chair. She didn't want any of it. So she ended up working better when she could move. So half a day she sat in a beanbag, half the day she sat in a chair. And sorry, someone did a question in the chat and I got distracted. I'll get right to you. Just let me finish this thought. So again, we're going to work with our children to find out what they need and what best. How do teachers handle this if kids have only one parent helping?
I know we're going to talk about just communication and opening those lines of communication with the teacher whenever possible. And honestly, right from the onset, and I didn't mean to interrupt your slide, but we're going to talk a little bit about that, I think.
Yeah, we will talk about that. And then if you can just remember your questions so we can go back to it. So if we can keep our questions to the end, just so that I'm just kidding. I so we can answer it in a second.
If we don't get to your question in the chat box, because we may miss it, please don't hesitate to ask us at the end of the presentation.
Yeah. So then you need to say, what does my student need to complete their homework? So right now, both of my kids, all they need is pencils, papers, and erasers, and sometimes a pencil sharpener. So that's what they have. But when my kids were younger, they sometimes had to have glue or scissors or markers or crayons. So whatever your kids need. So like what I have is a little push cart that the kids can push around and have it. The Dollar Tree has lots of different caddies that you can use to create one, and then you can move it. And I actually have a short little video that just shows how someone made one. So again, it doesn't have to be, oh, Josh has a card. So it doesn't have to be, you know, in like a huge thing. It can just be a small thing so that the kids know where the things they need to do their homework, where they are, and they can get them.
Okay, so some additional strategies for supporting learning. I'm actually going to start at the bottom. And I don't know if this answers, I saw some questions about just kind of how do teachers handle it if we have only one parent that's able to help with homework. And I think the most important rule, and I know Ms. Hernandez and I talked about this, is just from the very beginning, opening up the lines of communication with your child's teacher, you know, going to the virtual open house or making sure that they, you know that you have a vested interest in your child, because believe it or not, they don't always hear from all the parents. So just opening up those lines of communication in the very beginning. And then if there is any concerns or challenges that your child is facing or that you as a parent are facing, share those with your child's teachers. And I would hope that the teacher would work with you in some way or another. And then it's going to be important, going back up to the top, that you check with your student every day. And studies show that students who have parental assistance during study time and when completing homework spend more time on those activities. And parents can help motivate their children and encourage them to have a growth mindset during this time. This one's was a little hard for me. Supervise, but don't micromanage. The general rule of thumb here is to provide the minimum help necessary for the child to be successful. In other words, parents should do no more than is necessary for their child to succeed, but they should do enough to ensure success. And as school psychologists, this next kind of bit of information rings true for both of us. If you find that your child is spending an exorbitant amount of time on homework, obviously related to their age, grade, and or they're not able to do their homework independently, and you're having to do a lot of it for them to be successful, that's the time when you want to communicate those concerns with your child's teacher. And again, that's why it's important from the onset having that communication line open so that it's just easier to get in touch with them and kind of they know that you're on board. Look to others for help. I know when we talk about math, sometimes my daughter didn't always respond as well to me when I tried to help her with math. So enlist older siblings, grandparents, because homework can be time consuming. Use incentives if necessary. I think some of you mentioned that you do this with your children already. If they need additional motivation to complete their homework, give them something to look forward to once homework is complete. You can build in breaks along the way. After a set period of time is done, they can have a break or go outside for a little bit, or after a set amount of work, like if you do your math first, then we'll take a break, or your language arts first. Letting them choose as well and have a part in what they do first and last will help them stay motivated. Okay. All right, this is me as well. So kids benefit from routines, as do adults. And I'm a creature of a routine. I follow the same routine, and it's comforting to me. And kids like routines as well. But like Ms. Hernandez mentioned earlier, it's always important that we teach routines, we model routines, and you may have to go back and kind of tweak them, change them, dependent on a schedule. But they're not just beneficial for learning, but throughout the day. And the following are some research-based benefits to routines. They establish expectations and provide consistency. Your children know what you expect from them, which provides them with a consistency that all children need. When children know what you expect them to do, remember we talked about, when you come home, how are they going to do their homework? Where are they going to do their homework? They know what you expect of them as parents, and hopefully that's going to lessen conflict and power struggles. Children who follow routines develop better time management skills and are more confident and independent. And lastly, it provides them with stability and security. Now, is there anything based on what we've just shared with you that you maybe will start to implement at home that you haven't implemented already? Is there something perhaps that you're doing at home that we didn't mention that you think would be beneficial for the participants to hear? Please type those in the chat box.
Also, just so everyone knows, Josh said that he lets his kids sometimes struggle a little bit before he swoops in, and that it's a productive struggle. He doesn't let them, get overwhelmed, but just lets them try to work it out by themselves to see if they can have that success.
Excellent. And then someone else said that their 8-year-old helps their 6-year-old with homework, and it makes the content relatable. Making the content relatable also helps turning math problems into real-world situations.
Someone said they love the concept of praising the process rather than end goal or product. That's very important. And someone else said that they need to have more consistency with their scheduling.
And I know it's challenging sometimes, but I feel like, I know that in the end, if you develop kind of a schedule for when your children get home, it does make the whole process go much more smoothly. And
it might be rocky at the start. Whenever you start something new, and you're teaching them something, it might be rocky for everyone. It might be rocky for your kids. It might be rocky for you. But you have to give it a chance and, do that consistently so that they can. Like, I even have days. So days, depending on the day of week, we have a different schedule. So we're not even consistent with the whole week. We're consistent on the days because of my children's extracurricular activities. So we have to have a different routine for different days depending on if they're involved in something. Being specific, someone said, instead of saying math, break it down into the subset that they're working with. She was great with geometry, but struggled with algorithms. Asking which part is fun and where we can help will also help.
All right. Well, I think we should move on to the next.
All right. Oops. So now we're going to do the poll again, now that we've went over some of this stuff, even though I think you guys did a really good job
Yes.
at the beginning, but we're still going to do it again. That is a good point, Josh. So Josh said that his child gets overwhelmed with all the information at once, and so that they try to break it down one problem at a time. Sorry, guys, I can't start it when the chats are popping up, so just give me 1 second. Okay.
Yes, and if it's too hard, that's always a good idea, is just go on to something else and come back. Sorry.
It's okay. No, it's not. It just, I can't start the poll, so hold on. Hold on. All right. Now I think it will work. All right. So the first one is this. You're really talented in math. You should definitely focus on it next year. Remember, yes is a growth mindset and no is not. Thank you for those of you who have started.
We can probably move through these quickly.
Yep. Well,
Ish.
all right. Oh man. Takes 20 seconds to end the poll every time. So this is not, I'll say it while we're waiting for the results. That's okay. So this is not a growth mindset because we're emphasizing the importance of the talent. Josh, that's okay if you didn't put the right answer. This is about learning, not about getting the answer right because it's a process, okay? So when you say they're talented in math, you're basically saying the reason why you're doing good is because you have this innate talent in yourself. And that, so we want the, you know, the importance, the emphasis to be on their learning and their growth. All right, so
Yes, it is.
it is. Oh man.
That's a perfect example of a growth mindset about the learning and the process.
Okay, so here's the next one. This is she'll get it. She's working on it and making progress. You guys are quick with the fingers. It's going really well. Okay, so this is a growth mindset because we're acknowledging that the child's able to succeed and just needs more time to do so. This one, you are so smart. Is that a growth mindset or not? All right, so this is not a growth mindset because like we said, for the other one, this is just saying, you know, that the smartness is what leads to success rather than that effort. All right, and then, sorry guys.
And again, remember, if you have questions and we missed those in the chat, we'll have some time at the end where we can address some questions.
Correct. All right, this one is not, it's not letting me do it. So we'll switch to this one.
Okay.
All right, so that one's not letting me do it. So let's just, I'll just read it out loud and you can tell me. So I know someone already said they love this way, so that isn't the right answer. You don't understand it yet. Is that growth mindset or not? And you can just write it yes or no in the chat.
Yes.
All right. Thank you guys. Sorry, the polling is down. Another one that is a growth mindset was, I know it was hard, but look how your effort paid off. Because again, that is talking about the effort. So now we can go ahead and, Leanne, I think, can open it up to questions.
Okay.
So what questions do you have about acceleration through a growth mindset or these strategies that we have for supporting learning at home? I know there was someone had a question. Let me scroll up and see if I can find it. Or if we didn't answer your question and you have it, if you want to retype it or unmute, we can unmute you if you raise your hand and we can have you ask us. Jessica, you said your child is interactive. Do you mean like he's just very active? Is that what you mean?
And then while she's responding, Josh said that he has a third grader with test anxiety and feelings of being overwhelmed to tears. And we see that a lot as school psychologists. I have tried everything to encourage him with a general growth mindset, but it doesn't seem like anything is helping. He's still very hard on himself, no matter how I encourage him. And test anxiety is tough with children. and especially the third graders, it's a stressful year for them. You know, they have, well, I mean, I don't know how it will change this year, but with FSA and just, you know, definitely tapping into the resources at your child's school, whether it's the school counselor, the school social worker, the school psychologist. A lot of times they'll have small groups for children that have test anxiety, or the school counselor can work with your son or daughter to kind of have, you know, use different strategies when they begin to feel anxious or overwhelmed. But that's a lot for a third grader to have to, you know, deal with and cope with, and we don't want them to be stressed about tests at that age.
Yeah, like for my son when he was well, I mean, he still has a little bit. He's in 5th grade. But when he was in 3rd grade, like he really does have, you know, um that anxiety for the testing and oh, I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fail, without even trying. And so I really just try, you know, to emphasize that he's not a test score, you know, and just try to reiterate it. And it is, you know, it's hard, because there is an emphasis. Yeah, my son too. There's just this emphasis, you know, that we see where everyone wants to know, like, did you pass this test score? Get this, get this, get this. So it is really, you know, really, really hard. I make my kids do affirmations. I don't know if you guys know what they are. So like where they have to say, I'm smart, you know, things like that to themselves every day. And I mean, it has helped him. I would say like now, um, I don't feel that he's at, but really you have it just depends on the kid. Like it took my son like almost 2 years to like not have that same anxiety about testing. I just really tried to de-emphasize the grade and that, you know, try to reiterate like it's not about the grade for mommy and mommy's okay if you don't pass it. Because he's a really like people pleaser and he wants people to be proud of him. So I tried really, really hard. And like I said, it took almost 2 years for him to have less anxiety about it. He still has a little bit, but he definitely has improved and has more of a positive outlook. It just takes it takes time.
And I see Miss Allen's here, but I do want to say utilize the mental health supports that are at the school level, Josh, because they're there to help children who have those kinds of struggles. And I would definitely look into that moving forward. And I do like the idea of the affirmations, and just continuing to do what you're doing is just encouraging him and supporting him is going to be really important.
Yeah, I popped on Leanne because I wanted to share some SEL strategies. So social emotional learning is a huge push at all of your students' schools. They're really focusing on that in the classroom and across the school, but we also have created a resource for you all to utilize at home, because Leanne was really talking about some coping strategies or some things that they can use to get through a test when they do have that high level of anxiety. So some breathing techniques and some things that they can do when they get into a test, because normally they know what the test is going to be on before they take it. So I used to always have my students and my own kids do a brain dump of everything that they know about the topic on the top of the test before they started, or somewhere on the back of the test, something, so that they see that they have the knowledge. It's just a matter of applying it. I'm going to share a resource in the chat box called SEL at Home. It is a resource that you can utilize at your home location that really gives you some ideas for some of these strategies with your student.
I'm going to give everybody a second, Nicolette, if they can, to click on that Gmail before I close us out. So if you click on the link that Nicolette just put in the chat box, like she said, this is a great resource that is really working with the strategies that your schools, all of the schools across the district, are working on with social and emotional learning. And this takes that and makes connections to how we can do this at home, because it's not just about school, but it's about home as well.
Yes, thank you for being a great audience and participating.
All right, everybody. So I know you're dazzled by the Genially, but I'm going to call you back so I can close us out. We have a few minutes left. My name is Glenna Wyatt, and I am the Director of Instructional Development in the Professional Learning Department. And the Parent and Family Engagement also comes under our department. So we were so excited to partner with the Southeast Learning community tonight and bring you this awesome presentation. Shauna and Leanne, thank you so much. Our friends from Student Services. I've learned so much from working with you all over the past few weeks, and you guys were amazing tonight in supporting our families and how to really work with. We're accelerating the kids, we're pushing them forward, but we also have to really support that emotional side and make sure that we're really fostering the growth of our whole child. And that's what this is all about, the cognitive as well as the emotional coming together to help our students to be successful. So the recording for this session and resources can be accessed following the presentation. You'll receive a thank you email for attending tonight, and in that there will be directions and details for how to access this presentation as well as access some of the resources. I would like for you to complete a survey that we have. It's so important to us to get your feedback, parents and families. It helps us inform our practice and our future sessions. So we really want to hear from you. We need your input. We need to know what you want to know so that we can help support you in this important parenting job. So Nicolette's going to drop that in the chat box. And again, thank you so much for coming this evening. Please complete the survey before you log out of the session. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.